Hey there, this is Carrie Clark from SpeechAndLanguageKids.com and the Speech Therapy Solution. Today I'm answering a question from Olga. Olga is asking about how motor learning theory impacts treatment for children with childhood apraxia of speech. So I have gone through and picked out the parts of the motor learning theory that are helpful for deciding how you're going to do treatment for an apraxia kiddo. So the first thing is there is this what they call the pre-teaching phase or the precursor phase for motor learning. And this talks about how there needs to, number one, be a relationship established between you and the client. Number two, you need to have that client's attention and their motivation. They need to be motivated to do the task. So that can include some talking about why you're doing this. And then number three, some pre-practice or stimulability work. So seeing which sounds they can produce with some cueing, which ones they're not able to produce at all, and having them practice those movements before you get into the actual session. So this can be just kind of at the beginning when you're just starting to get to know the client, or at the beginning of each session if you're trying to get them ready for the practice that you're going to do. So those are the precursors to motor learning, and that is part of the theory. But then the next part that is important for us is where it talks about trials. So it's very important in the motor learning theory to have many repetitions of a skill to learn the motor movement. Now, with our children with childhood apraxia of speech, we know that they need even more repetitions than the average person to learn a motor skill when it comes to speech motor patterns. So for kiddos with childhood apraxia of speech, you really want to make sure that you're getting as many trials in as possible. So you can do this by minimizing the amount of time that you spend on praise or fun time or break. So one way to do this is to make the activities really functional, which is another great part of apraxia therapy, is to take the activity and make it functional so that they are practicing speech in the environment where they will need it. So if they're saying ball, they're not just looking at a picture of a ball and saying it. They're saying ball because they want a ball. So it's very functional. Now, when you're trying to get more trials and you're trying to reduce the amount of time that you're praising them, if they say ball and you have a handful of, let's say, marbles — I did this the other day with a kiddo with a marble track. I had about 10 balls in my hand, and I could get him to say ball 10 times very quickly by just having him say ball. And every time I would hand him a ball and he had his hands out. So he said ball, 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 ball. I minimized the praise because if he said it correctly, he got the ball. And so there was very little that I had to do in order to distract from the activity. He just got to practice the word over and over again. So he got it 10 times in a row, and then he threw him down the marble track, and then we did it again 10 times in a row, threw it down the marble track. We probably got 100 trials in just a couple minutes. So it's something that you have to kind of think about how you can do it in a manner that will allow for more repetitions, but see how many trials you can get in one session, because the more you can get in, the better the learning is going to happen. Now, the other thing that's important about motor learning theory is that distributed practice is better for generalization than mass practice. Now, distributed practice would be doing shorter sessions more frequently, whereas mass practice would be doing longer sessions but having fewer of them. So for distributed practice, maybe you work with the child for 5 minutes every day, and you have them say their words just during those 5 minutes. You just drill through them, drill, 5 minutes, you're done. And you do that every day. That would be distributed practice, as opposed to mass practice, which would be maybe you see them for 30 minutes twice a week. So distributed practice is better for generalization, better for retaining the information that they're learning with that motor learning. And then also with distributed practice, you can send home homework and have the parents do 5 minutes a day. Maybe you have the teacher agree to have some time during the day where they spend 2 to 5 minutes going over the words with the child. So if you're all doing that, that's 3 times a day that he's getting to practice his words. So it's going to be way better than having just a big chunk where you work with them maybe once or twice a week for a very long time. So distributed practice is better than mass practice. Also, random practice is better than block practice. So random practice would be mixing together targets, and block practice would be working on one specific skill until you master it and then moving on to the next one. The problem with block practice for kiddos with apraxia of speech is that it leads to over-generalization. So let's say you're only going to work on the B sound until you get that B sound, and you work on B at the beginning of the word, and that's all you work on until they master it. You're going to have a harder time teaching them a different sound at the beginning of the word, because now they think that every word starts with the B sound. So if you can, for example, target CV, consonant vowel words, instead of B and then a vowel, then you're going to have better luck of teaching them that all words are different and not get that overgeneralization. So random practice, mix your targets together. Don't just target one very specific skill. You can target similar skills like consonant vowel. That's a whole bunch. There's a bunch of different things you could do with that, but it's still a pretty specific niche. You're just doing two sounds together. So random practice better than blocked practice. Also, specific feedback is very important for motor learning. You have to know if what you're doing is correct and know how to fix it if it's not. So if they say a sound and it comes out wrong, you need to tell them, that sounded like a B sound. We're trying to get the F sound. Let me hear you do it like this. And then give them feedback when they correct it too. That was really good. That was exactly what we're looking for. Let's try that again. So make sure that you're giving very specific feedback. And then finally, cueing and prompting is important so that they can practice the skill correctly. So provide as many supports as you need to get the child to say that sound. Maybe you're saying it at the same time as them while you're pointing to your mouth, and you're all looking in a mirror so that she can see where her mouth is. So make sure you're giving as many supports and cues as you need to get that child to say it correctly, and then keep those cues and everything in place while she says it over and over and over again and gets those many trials so that the motor learning can take over and the child is actually learning the motor pattern of it and practicing that pattern. All right, so those are the main components of motor theory learning that will impact the CAS treatment. There's other components of it too that may be helpful, but those are the main ones that I wanted to touch on today. If you have any questions, please leave those below, or if you have any comments, leave those as well. Thanks so much for watching and have a fantastic day.